Question 5. Decide whether the points A, B, and C are collinear. Justify your answer. So if I drew this up, here, I would get A is equal to 0 minus 5, so I may be over there. I'd get B is equal to, so that's 0 minus 5. I'd get B is equal to 3 and 1, I may be over there. B, 3 and 1, and I'd have C minus 1, 6, somewhere over there. C minus 1 and minus 6. So it looks like they could be collinear. Now, because A, if I take A as the point that is joining these two lines, that line and that line, and if I let this be my M1 and my M2, if I can show that M1 equals M2, then I would have it that these are collinear. These points are collinear. So let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at your M1. Now remember that is going to be your Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So I need to decide. I'm looking at M1, so I'm looking at the points A and B. So I need to decide which one is going to be point 2 and which is going to be point 1. I'm going to call, and for me, I'm going to call it B as point 2. So I'm going to get 1. That's for Y and X. That's going to be 1 minus 5, like that. And for your X, you're going to get 3 minus 0. So 1 minus 5 becomes plus 5, so it's going to be 6 divided by 3, and that's equal to 2. For your M2, same thing over here. You're going to have Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. I need to again decide which of these is going to be your first and second points. This is point C to A. I'm going to call A point 2 and C point 1. So we're going to get minus 6 minus 5, and then we are going to get minus 1 minus 0. So this minus 5 becomes plus 5, so we get negative 1 divided by negative 1 is equal to 1. So my slope for M2 is equal to 1, and my slope for M1 is equal to 2. Therefore, we can say they are not collinear. Okay. For question 6, we have write down the equations of each of those lines. Okay, so we're going to just have in the point y is equal to mx plus c. My c here obviously is equal to 20, so it's going to equal plus 20. What about my slope? Well, my change in my y, if I draw a triangle in here, my change in my y is 10, and my change in my x is equal to 2. And I go from this point to this point, I change 2 in the positive, 2 in the positive. So I'm going to get 10 over 2, so it's going to be 5x plus 2 would be my equation. For B, y is equal to mx plus c. We're going to get our c is going to equal 3. We're going to be going, when we're going from this point to this point, my change in my y is negative 1. My change in my x is plus 4. So it's going to be minus 1 quarter x plus 3 is y. Is my equation. So equation y is equal to mx plus c. We're going to get our c is equal to 3, so it's 3. What about my slope? Well, when I'm going from the 2 points, I've got to go down in the y, so it's minus 3. I'm going positive in there, so it's minus 3 over 3, which is minus 1, so it's minus 1x plus 3 is y is my equation. In this one over here, it is going through the minus 3 line, so that is just y is equal to minus 3, and here it's going through the x line at 2, so it's just x is equal to 2. draw each line on a different pair of Cartesian axes. Well, I'm going to try and do it all on one, like that. So let's put a few lines, a few points in here. You obviously will draw a much neater diagram than I'm going to draw here. Make sure you always label your axes, and make sure that these points here are for the same value. So if this is 0 to 1, then that same value, that same length corresponds to the same amount on the axes. So for the first one here, you've got this one over here. You've got y is equal to a quarter x minus 4. Now this, sorry, minus 3. Now this minus 3 is like your reference point. So you go to that point, that's minus 3. That is where it's going to cross the y-axis, and then you take your slope. That's going to be a quarter. So you've got a slope of a quarter, so that quarter as a slope means your change in y, your change in x. So when you're going from that point, you're going to go 1 in the y and then 4 in the x. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to be on that point over there, and this would be your graph like that, which again you would draw a much better graph than this. If you do have more than one graph, then you need to label it. So it's 1 quarter x minus 3. This one over here, I would put that into my y is equal to mx plus c form firstly. So it's going to be, I'll take the x over to the side, so it's going to be minus 5 y is equal to minus 3x minus 30, and then I'll divide through by minus 5, so we get y is equal to minus divided by minus is going to become positive, so it's going to be 3/5 x plus 6. So we're going to be at the 6 point. This is going to be my y-intercept. That's going to be my c. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm over there. Now this 3/5 over here, that is your slope. So your m is equal to 3 over 5, which is equal to your change in y, your change in x. So your graph, and obviously my scale isn't great, but I'm sure you're going to do a much better job than me on this. This is your change in y, so you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then your change in your x will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you'd be at that point over there, and therefore your graph will look something like that. So that would be your B line there. For this one over here, I'll again put in my y is equal to mx plus c. I'll divide through by 3, so I'm going to get y is equal to 2. So that is going to be going through 2. It's going to be like that. Y is equal to 2. And x is equal to minus 1. This would be like that. X is equal to minus 1. Like that. Like that. Okay. Going on to question 8. Given the points A, 2 and 5 and C, minus 2 and 3, find the coordinates of the midpoint M of the line AC. Write down the equation of the line L that passes through the midpoint P and is perpendicular to the line AC. Okay. And then we will look at the further parts of that question as we go. So, given the points A, 2 and C, we want to find firstly the midpoint M. Now we know our formula to find the midpoint for x for the midpoint. We're just going to add x1 plus x2 over 2. So if I just call each one a point, this is obviously my xy, xy. So that's going to be 2 plus minus 2 over 2. So that's 0 over 2. That's equal to 0. So the midpoint is going to, for the x is equal to 0. For my y, the same thing. It's going to be y1 plus y2 over 2. So it's going to be 5 plus 3 over 2, which is equal to 4. So your midpoint for that M is going to have the coordinates of 0 and 4. It then says write down the equation of the line L that passes through the point M and is perpendicular to the line AC. L is said to be perpendicular bisector of AC. So we've got this point M, which is 0 and 4. And let me just erase this. I've got a bit of space to work in here. Sorry, my eraser doesn't seem to be working very well. Okay, so I've got this point AC. Perhaps I should just perhaps drawing it will be good. So y and x, and I'm looking at the point AC. So that's going to be 2 and 5. So we're about over there. That is for A, 2 and 5, and for C I am -2 and 3. So I'm about over there. C -2 and 3. So I've got this line here between these 2 points, and obviously my point M works out to be over there. It's a little bit off scale here, but that it'll be M. So I'm looking for this line here that is going through that point there, and it's going at 90 degrees. Now if this is M1 and that's M2, we're going to have that M1, or let's say M2, that's the one I'm going to try and find, is equal to -1 over M1, like that. So I've firstly obviously got to find out what my slope is for M1. So M1, remember, is equal to your y2 minus y1 over your x2 minus x1. So I've labeled this as my A as 1 and my C is 2. So that's going to be, if I just can fit this in over here, it's going to be 3 minus 5 divided by -2 minus 2, like that. So you're going to get -2 over -4, so it's actually minus divided by minus positive, so it's going to be a half. So your slope M1, this one over here, M1, is equal to a half. So your M2 is going to be M2 is equal to -1 over a half. Now when you divide 1 by half, obviously that's 2, it's minus, so it's going to be -2. So that's equal to -2. So we now have our equation y is equal to -2x plus c. We need to find out what c is. Now to find out what c is, we just take this point over here that we found, which was that, and we substitute it into here to find out what the c is, because this is my x and y. I put that in, so I get 4. Sorry, I get, this is not, yeah, so that's going to be 4 is equal to -2x plus c. I didn't really need to do this at all, obviously, because that is on the y-intercept, so c is equal to 4. So I have got y is equal to -2x plus 4. Didn't really need to do that substitution.